If the Vielo V+1 is not the best bike for both gravel and road, then it must come pretty close. I've been riding this one for 6 months, and I admit I was hesitant at first. In this video, I can promise you a truly honest review, and we'll also hear from the man behind Vielo, Ian Hughes, as to why this bike is built the way it is. So if you're thinking about a bike that will handle both gravel and road riding, then two things. You really ought to consider this Vielo, and you really should be watching this video right to the end.
Prices start at a relatively modest £4,000. This version with E-tap and zip wheels costs over £6,000, much less than a Pinarello Dogma, so you might argue it's not a superbike. And you might think, after spending so much, I've convinced myself the bike is great, that I want to show I've made a great choice.
Except I didn't. I was really concerned after I bought this bike that I bought the wrong thing, and you can see a bit of that in the first videos I made about it. Now, months later, I think I understand the Vielo better. And while I'm not a professional reviewer and can't compare this bike to hundreds of others out there, I have lived with it. We've shared some great adventures together, and I think that knowledge, combined with the information from the man who makes the bike, will help you understand it better too.
First, what is this bike meant to be? Here's Ian Hughes, one of the partners in Vielo.
We kind of positioning this bike as sort of fast performance race gravel. It's not so much for long distance endurance bike packing days. We want to kind of position this more as a really, really fast race gravel bike.
And if you look at the other videos in the adventure cycling playlist, you'll see that's pretty much how I've been using this bike, on short and long adventurous rides, often in really wild places, with a mix of off and on road. And that means I'm using my other gravel bike in a quite different way.
That bike is a titanium Sonda Camino, and I chose it recently to tackle a multi-day bikepacking tour in northeast Scotland. I felt the strength and, crucially, more relaxed position was better suited to touring with bags, and I still do. On the Vielo, I've had a good bike fit, but it is still what I'd call aggressive compared to a touring or endurance bike. If we draw a line from the saddle on the Camino, then there's very little drop to the bars. Compare that to the Vielo, and you'll see why I say it's more aggressive. Both bikes have been set up by the same bike fitter, but for different purposes.
Perhaps if I was younger or stronger, I wouldn't notice a difference, but I do. I wouldn't take a really aggressive and stiff aero road bike out if I was planning to ride day after day on some great Audax. Let's see if I can think of a better analogy. Okay, got one. Think of your traditional gravel bike, steel, aluminium, titanium, as a Land Cruiser. Sit in it for days, go over the roughest terrain, bomb-proof. This and the other fast gravel bikes like it, these are more like off-road Lotus, the sort of things you take out for a track day to have a really good blast. But you know what? The best compliment I can give it is when I go to my bike shed and I'm not sure which bike I'm going to pick out, that is always the one that I leave with.
But why is the Vielo the way it is? What makes it a fast gravel bike? The main thing is the stiffness around the bottom bracket. While Vielo comes in several configurations and price points, they all have one chainring. They are fully committed to one by. More about that in a moment.
Normally with a 2x frame with a second chainring, you need a cutout here to accommodate the second chainring. Obviously we're doing a single chainring, we're doing 1x, then we can make the junction completely symmetrical going into the bottom bracket, which increases lateral stiffness considerably. And we know by computer simulations, we're increasing the lateral stiffness by 32%. So performance-wise, that's a no-brainer, that's straight away.
That extra 32% does not translate into an uncomfortable ride, and this is a crucial point. I get sore wrists and thumbs, and I put a shock stop stem on the Camino to remove some of the vibration.
It has been a hugely pleasant surprise, almost a revelation, that my wrists and thumbs have been absolutely fine, even on the roughest of grounds. And that's despite the bike frame and the handlebars being carbon, which conventional wisdom has is an awful lot stiffer. Partly this is down to the frame taking the wider tyres, up to 50mm, and those tyres are run tubeless, and all that soaks up an awful lot of vibration. But it is also down to some subtleties in the frame design. I mean, look at those seat stays.
So it's flattened and also curved, and there's a little degree of flex, which you can even see here straight away in the stays. So as you're going over those gnarly little bumps, that's going to again just take some of the sting out of the ride for you.
The fork is also designed to give a gentler ride.
Stacks of space for 50mm tyre, so we've increased the width of the crown very, very slightly, and also engineered the tip of the fork to provide some more comfort and some more flex.
In case you missed that, this bike takes a 50mm tyre on a 700C rim with symmetrical chainstays that are not dropped. That massive clearance is the way designs are heading.
Apparently a lot of people expect to buy an additional set of rims, 650B, to allow for fatter off-road tyres. But with the clearances on this bike, what you really need are two sets of 700C rims, one to put on road or light trail tyres and the other for more serious off-road stuff. That way you can switch quickly and easily between them. If you're enjoying this and finding it helpful, please give me a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel. If you really like to have a look around, that would be good, and maybe consider even joining the channel. There'll be a join button below every video.
These lovely people have supported the channel by becoming members of the production crew and adventure crew. Thank you very much for your support. It means a lot. First niggle coming up. Why only one buy? Plenty of people don't like it. Vielo had their own chain rings from 38 to 50 machined for this bike at 2-tooth intervals, guaranteeing, they say, smooth running across the full range of gears.
Well, we've machined the chain line and made the chain line absolutely perfect with our chain ring, even to the point where you could spin the chain ring backwards at the maximum point. So that's on a 50 cassette. The chain's not dropping, it's not even clicking. So that's kind of the tolerances that we work to. And even when you go down to the 10-tooth, again, you've got an absolutely clean chain line all the way across.
You know, he's right, it does work, and that's still dirty after a ride. Occasionally, you do find that in some intermediate gears there can be a little bit of clicking. I think that's because 12-speed is just inherently more sensitive, and you can get debris in there, which causes a few problems. Adjustment is not quite so easy because there's no barrel adjuster. You have to do the electronic shifting through micro switches in the handlebars.
So one buy is good, not perfect, and doesn't suit everyone. One byproduct of the tight tolerances is that it's harder to clean inside the chainring. But Vielo is committed to it on this bike and on the pure road bike, the R+1. Undeniable are the lovely flourishes, neat touches on this premium bike. The rubber seal around the seat post, the hidden bolt to adjust the clamp, mounting points for mudguards coming soon in 2022, silicone bar tape that winds from the inside out and doesn't leave a sticky mess on the bars. I've already taken a chunk out of mine. There's an integrated stem version. I went for the more adjustable separate stem. Quick release through axles. Inset metal plates so the rotor doesn't scratch the carbon when the wheel goes back in. That lovely satin carbon finish and colour palette, which is easy to keep clean. The subtle logo, which to me looks like the same font as Cyclist magazine, in which the first generation of this bike was glowingly reviewed. There's a link to that in the video description. And of course, Vielo is a British company.
I'm going to try not to sound like a show-off here. I have got, as you may have seen in other videos, a really good road bike. It's a Parlay, which, if you know your bikes, is pretty much the top end of carbon frames. When it was new back in 2010, it would have cost, had I paid full price, more than this bike costs now. I'm glad I got a deal. The point is, it's an excellent road bike, and yet since buying the Vielo V+1, I've barely ridden it. Because when I want to head out for a ride, this is the bike that I invariably leave on. I don't change the tires just to go on the road. There's a bit of a drag, but the weight of the bike almost compensates for that. As I explained, it is not ideal for all types of riding, so it is not perfect. But neither am I. This is the bike that excites me. It's the bike that I want to ride. And after all those initial concerns and doubts, this is the bike which always brings a smile to my face.
Please subscribe and check out the join button. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.